Hey boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing the Smittybuilt air compressor, the 2781, and making a minor modification by adding a pressure switch to it. So this is the Smittybuilt 2781 air compressor. Really runs well, I gotta say. I've been using it for quite a while. High CFM, 5.65 or something of the sort, so it's pretty good. Already made a minor modification much earlier by just adding a typical closed chuck to the end of it to match with quarter NPT fittings and whatnot. So the problem with this is that this compressor is made to run on an open system. As soon as you stop flowing air, the compressor will continuously run. It'll end up popping the pressure relief valve. So it'll sound somewhat like a little bit of a gunshot. I'll demonstrate that quickly, so you'll see what I mean, and then we're going to do the modification to add a pressure switch so that it will turn off when it reaches, in this case, 100 psi. It'll turn back on when it gets down to 70 psi. I won't have to manage turning on and off the compressor all the time. All right, so we're just out here at the Bronco, quickly to demonstrate what I was talking about it wanting to run on a closed system. It's raining, we'll do this pretty quick. I'm going to turn on the compressor with this little air gun open, and you can see it's just going to run normally. When I let go of it and close the system, you're going to hear the pressure build. It won't shut off by itself, and the pressure relief valve will blow. So here we go. So no problems. It'll run for a while like this. If I let go, and it'll just constantly do that. So that's the annoying part about this compressor. Therefore, the reason that we're going to add the pressure switch to this system. And in hopefully a part 2 of this video, we're going to mount this compressor in this area here of the Bronco. All right, so let's run you through the tools you're going to need. Right here, we're going to be removing this pressure relief valve. We'll take the ring off first. To remove it, we're going to need a 9/16 ratchet. We'll just take that off. It'll then be replaced using the 9/16 ratchet, putting this double-ended male quarter NPT fitting on. Then we'll use our crescent wrench to put on another double female. Just gets it out far enough to properly put our T-fitting on, which is a quarter NPT male T to 2 double female quarter NPT. This pressure relief valve up here is going to get relocated to this side, and we're going to end up putting on our pressure valve, pressure switch, I should say, onto this side. This pressure switch is a 70 to 100 psi. Okay, unfortunately, it is a 1/8 thread. So we have just an adapter here from 1/8 to quarter NPT to fit in here. We're going to have some wire strippers. Unfortunately, I misplaced mine, so I'm going to have to use electrical pliers. Not ideal, but it is what it is. Our connectors to connect our wires onto our pressure switch, our crimpers for those. We got 2 little pieces of wire here. These are 10 inches long. They're just 22 gauge. The actual wire we're going to tap into seems to be 22 gauge as well. It's very small. I have a little bit of shrink tubing here. This is a 3/8. We're going to kind of put it on top of all of this. This is going to get done first. So this is going to be our 1/4 shrink tubing. This over here is going to be our 3/16 shrink tubing. Here I'm using just solder connectors. That's where we're going to tap into the wire that's here. These wires can be any color you want. It's not a big deal. It's really just switching power. There's no positive and negative. You can switch it whichever way you want. And here I'm going to put this kind of, I know, expandable. I believe it's a 1/4 inch, this one, but expandable, I don't know, protector over the whole wire, because it does get exposed here as well to some heat. This thing gets fairly hot, but we're going to have it run off and then just tap into here. We are going to need a 1/4 inch drill to drill into this to get our wire to go in. You could use a grommet. I'd prefer to have it more sealed, so I'm just going to use some black silicone. Obviously I have my heat gun, that's just for these little shrink solder connections. And the only dismantling of the compressor that we're going to need to do are these 4 Allen keys. Sorry, I'm just having a little bit of a brain fart. These Allen keys, this is a 3mm Allen key. Okay, so it's going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to take off the 4 bolts here. We can use a little pry bar if he wants more to get it on after, but we can actually just lift this off and pull this out. You'll see it'll all shimmy apart. If you really need to, you could always take this apart, but I don't see the need. We can get it apart. So I've tried that before. All right, so we'll get back to the install. All right, so here we go. Let's get started. We're going to start by our valve end here. Just going to remove the little ring to activate that manually. We are going to remove our pressure relief valve here. It's got some, I believe it was red thread locker on there. You can see all that thread locker that was on there. So we've removed our valve. That's going to get reinstalled on this end. I'm going to go with Teflon tape. If ever it, I see that the valve gets loose from the vibration, then I will come back in and put some thread locker instead. But for me, this is going to be fine, I believe. So we're going to go back in here. Hopefully you can see all this. We're going to get back in here with our double male to the start. We'll just get her started. This is the same size. Hopefully we can get all the way in beside it because it is a little tight. Sorry, I'm blocking the view here, and I need a little bit of torque. I want to over tighten. I want to get it on there tight. Wiggle this thing off. As I can see, it was tight. There we go. It's just very tight between the nut and the side here. All right, now we're going to do the same thing. I guess I should have put some Teflon tape on beforehand on the other side, because this is going to make it quite a bit more difficult. So, note to self, note to you guys, put some Teflon tape on this end beforehand. Don't get stuck doing this stupidity like I am. Should work out fine anyway, but would have been easier to get it on there beforehand. All right, now we're just going to use our wrench, that on there. Like I said, this piece, the only reason we're doing all this is because we can't put this piece all the way in. We wouldn't be able to screw it in, it would hit. So we need this as a spacer of sorts. So we'll just get that tightened down. I don't know, we're doing everything. All right, this one already has some on it, so we're just going to go straight on with this. These are the, I believe, Husky brand ones from Home Depot. I'm going to use my wrench to give this a little bit of a turn as well. Get her in there. Go all the way at the, over the end if I need to. Make sure to get it in tight so that it's well seated. I think we're going to go with one other. I think that should be fine. One more. All right, there we go. So our T is on. It's not loose. We'll try to get it lined up here nicely. There we go. Somewhat nicely. Put some nylon thread, some Teflon thread on there too. So I didn't have to go as far with the Teflon tape. This is the whole handle that just moved down, but actually that's not a bad thing. That's going to keep it a little bit closer. We can always put our little ring back on in case we want to activate that. Hard to see here, but I'll get it in. Okay. All right, now we're going to do our pressure switch. You believe I'm going to put the lock nut on the pressure switch first. This one seemed a little bit looser than I would like, so I am going to put a little bit extra tape. It's a little wide, it's going over the nut as well. I would like it to bite a little bit better. So here we are putting our, this is what I meant by it's a little loose. Hopefully we get no leaks in this part. That's a potential spot where something might go wrong. I'll let you know if ever it does in the comments. By the way, for the all the equipment needed, I'll leave obviously the description, all the things needed in the description of the video, so you don't have to keep rewinding the video. Once you got an idea, you can just take a look at it. All right. So we have pretty much, this will allow me to tighten that a little bit as well. Get this vertical with the two prongs, if possible. I think it'll make it just a slight bit more low profile. So that's the way I'm going with it. So this section is done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take off the back here, and we're going to get all our wires run through. We're going to drill through the cover. I'll be back to do that part in a second. All right, so I decided I'm going to get this wire set up over here. So we're going to crimp on our connectors here. We're going to get everything nicely set up to be ready. I think it's going to make it a lot more simple to do the setup. We're going to be able to do some good shrink wrap on everything. It's on there good. I've already stripped the wires off here a little bit with my super excellent electric pliers. Really sucks that I don't have my wire strippers, but you know, usually I'm organized. I don't know what happened. They probably got left somewhere. Went and did something somewhere and forgot them. All right, so we get these crimped on well. So there we go. What I'm going to do, I added to that list, by the way, 2 other pieces of, I'm going to say this is the 1/4 inch shrink tubing, because I like shrinking everything nice and waterproof as much as possible, so it'll get over there. Hopefully this is going to be tight enough. We'll see it with the first one. And then I'm going to put another one over the top, but we're going to start with this. it gets the connection on tight. That's a little bit loose, but we're going to have another one on top of it, so I'm not too worried. All right, start with those ones. Now we're going to get this shrink tubing on. Why am I doing all this? God knows. I like having things nice and tidy as much as possible. I just realized that the plastic melted on this a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me see. Yeah, it kind of melted on the end of there. But it still looks okay. I'm just going to cut it off with an X-Acto knife after. Should work out okay. That's going to work out fine. We'll put them one on top of the other so that it works. That's good. I heat shrink this in place. Get those. Actually, we're going to make it a little bit more round by twisting these around inside a little bit. More of a round effect. Okay. Let's get going on this piece by piece. All right, gives us a decent little finish. So I'm just going to cut the end off that so that it can connect. I will connect it on there, and that way we'll know the exact distance we need where we're coming inside, but I believe it's just going to go right in there. All right, so I've cut that little melted plastic end off of there, so I just want to be careful of that in the future. And now we're going to install our braided cover. Give it a little bit more protection, mechanical protection, physical protection. All right, so that's going to go over here, and that's where we're going to use our big piece of shrink tubing there. So what I think I'm going to do is actually connect it first, make sure everything sits proper on it. Like I've mentioned before, it doesn't matter which wire goes to which. Changes absolutely nothing. Okay. So there's our pressure switch there. Making it a little more difficult to get it over. All right, so we're going to put this over as far as it can. There we go. That's going to be good. Give that a shot. All right, looking good and sexy over here. Get at, beautiful. Still worried about this pressure switch unscrewing here, but and then we're going to be able to decide where we're going to maybe zip tie this so it doesn't get in the way when we're grabbing this. Maybe we'll zip tie it through here. Could it go through? Absolutely, I think it could go through, but I think it's going to get in the way if I'm grabbing this. I do plan on mounting it inside the engine compartment, but until then, I'm going to have to grab it, and I don't want to rip this off. So we're just going to come around the side here. So next step, we're going to get this all unscrewed so we can get access to our wires. We're going to drill a hole through our cover here, and that's it. Okay, we're back. I made the executive decision to remove the pressure switch from the adapter. It was quite loose, even with the thread tape. So I decided if this pressure switch ever screws up, I can disconnect it. I'm going to have to replace the adapter, but I used red thread locker. Hopefully it's going to make a good seal as well, and it'll keep it in place permanently. All right, so now all we're going to do is we're going to unscrew our 4 Allen screws here. They do have a little lock washer on them. I guess if these things tended to get loose in the future, I could put a little blue thread locker on there. I don't think it would cause any issues. So these are our screws, little washer on them. So I'm going to remove the 4. And the last one. There are other ways of doing this, and routing stuff, but these are Japanese fittings, and you needed these special adapters. And I was kind of looking around YouTube at different versions of this modification, and I did come across one that did this. I found it to be the most user-friendly and simple to do without requiring a whole bunch of different things. So here we go. You can see the base plate comes off. My lock washer's just here, so I'll have to pick that out of there. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, the base pries off quite easily here, and this is just kind of tight. So you can, as you can see, just kind of wiggle it out, and then you're fine. Okay, so if we look in here, hopefully you're going to get a good view. All the wires, this thin black wire, that's the one we're going for. So all we're going to do is we're going to cut it in half, and we're going to take one half of it to one of these wires, the other half to the other. Okay, it doesn't matter which one, it changes nothing. So I'm going to drill a hole through here to run the wire, cut into this one, and that's all there is to it. So let's get the drill set up. All right, there are no obstacles to this, so I'm going to just drill right here, probably in line with the switch. Make it a little bit bigger because I know that this stuff is going to be a little bit tight to get through. So that's our hole to run our wires through. And I get this wire cut in half, and get to connecting all of these, one half and one half. All right, so I decided to film this, but so since our hole is there and the wire is attached there and there, I don't really want to come out here and cut it in half. I'm going to do this and say, that's where my closest halfway point will be. So I'm going to cut it like that. Hopefully you're all able to see that. You know, my super cutters again, yippity doo dah, but it is what it is. So that's it. I'm going to strip these, put on my solder connectors here, and the shrink wrap, and we're going to connect one there, and that's all she wrote. Since the wire's attached there and there, I pulled them up towards the corner of where the wire is going through to have it fairly even on the cut it in half. And this is where I'm saying it does not matter which wire goes to which one, it changes nothing. So we're just going to do our solder connectors and then our shrink wrap tubing above it to keep everything nice and sealed. So I'll get my shrink wrap on there and do all that stuff. All right, so I decided to cut the this braided hose cover a little shorter, a little piece of electrical tape, to be able to get on another 1/4 inch piece of shrink tubing to get just over there, because it's going to make it a lot easier to fish it through after and have a nice seal with the silicone, I think. So I'm just going to put this in place and heat her up. All right, and now we want to fish this through the hole here. Are we able to see what I'm doing? Yes, I think we are. Okay, because obviously, if you don't do this first, making your connections on the outside are not going to be very useful. There we go, nice and tight. That's going to be beautiful there. Just want to see approximately where it's going. That's going to be good. I'll do that there. So if y'all want to laugh, because, you know, we're really doing things over here, but when you're constantly trying to like film different parts, you get distracted sometimes. Look at what kind of idiocy I did. I took my time, did a beautiful job with the solder connection and the shrink wrap, but guess what I did? I reconnected the damn wire that I already cut instead of taking one of these. So I have to take this apart because, you know, crap happens. But whatever, we'll get it fixed up. But I had a good laugh with that, and had to go have a beer. Okay, so our connections are made. So this is all connected. Now, by the way, I disconnected it from the relay because it gave us much more room to work with. So good idea once we've done that whole setup is to disconnect it. This is pretty simple. We got to get this kind of jammed back under this plate. So what we're going to do is just take a little pry bar for a second and just give ourselves a little bit of room to start wiggling it underneath. And once you've got room, we can get her back in place. Line up the holes. So it's just a question of lining up the holes at the moment. There we go. All right, holes are all lined up. I'm going to start up top. Get these in. Wiggle so it gets properly lined up. Okay, once the top's done, want to make sure we get our supports from the bottom lined up proper. Might need to use our little, there we go. Yeah, all right, so we got them lined up again. No tools necessary. Won't tighten that one down all the way. Give myself a little bit more play for this one. All right, we will reconnect our wires here. There we go. So as you can see, this is super nice and clean. Hopefully you can see that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go test it out first, and then I'm going to end it with a little blob of black silicone here when everything's working. And I don't even think we're going to have to do anything about zip tying it in place. The silicone will hold it right here. And it's beautiful, looking great. Let's go see if it works. All right, so here we are, set up one more time. I haven't tried this yet, so wish us luck. Let's see if this thing works. We're gonna airflow again. It should shut off as it goes up. Boom, shut off all by itself. I start going again. Nice. Works perfectly. So I hope that video helped you guys out, and you know, if you like the video, like the video. Take care.